Hello, fellow cyborgs, and welcome to my 24-hour comics readathon wrap-up. On Saturday, which is when the readathon was happening, I managed to read for 13 of the 24 hours, and in those 13 hours, I read 11 trade paperback comic books. That's not too shabby, and it is about the rate that I thought my pacing was going to be at, though I thought that it would even out to an hour or less per trade rather than an hour or more roughly, but it doesn't really matter. I read some awesome comic books, and I am going to tell you about them. So my morning started off at 7:30. I planned on getting up at midnight and reading for an hour to welcome the readathon in, but it just didn't end up happening. The first comic book of the day that I picked up was Yukon Ho Calvin and Hobbes comic. This took me actually about 2 hours to read. There is quite a lot of text, and that's practically the point of these comics, since they're just black and white line drawings, not even very much shading at all. I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. It made me giggle so many times, and it was just quintessential Calvin and Hobbes. The only thing that I found odd is that there were some Christmas spoilers in this, if you know what I mean. I thought that since this is a really accessible comic book for young readers, I made a note in my front copy, but I was a little bit like, Bill Watterson, don't spoil the Christmas magic. Then I picked up Amulet Book 1. I found this highly delightful. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I completely agree with Mercedes that when I was supposed to feel afraid, I certainly felt afraid and creeped out. And when I was supposed to feel sad, I felt sad as well. The art was wonderful. This was my favorite page. Oh, so pretty. I also really liked the characters. You follow Em and Navin, and they both seemed like, proper kids. Like the adult who wrote this, Kazu Kibuishi, captured kids respectfully and realistically. I am definitely going to be picking up volumes or books 2 and 3. Don't know if I'm going to continue further than that because Mercedes said that her love of it kind of dipped after book 3, but it was a success. Then I picked up Hellboy Volume 7, The Troll Witch and Others. This is the second of the short story collections of the Hellboy trades that I've read. I think it was the third that was another one. Yeah. The third one was another one of those. I really love when Mignola does short stories. In here were a couple short stories that were illustrated by other people, which was kind of weird. Here was one of them. Because Hellboy and Mignola has such an art style that pairs together so well that seeing someone else do it was a little weird, but Mignola wrote all of the scripts anyway, so he still had his hand in there. Most of the time, I kind of don't understand 100% what's going on, and the lack of dialogue, it's generally a sparsely texted comic, especially compared to Calvin and Hobbes. The reader is supposed to and allowed to fill in the blanks. And also the art style of Mignola is ambiguous at times. He's really heavy on the shadows and hinting at shapes and objects rather than blatantly drawing them. So it's a really, really interesting reading experience. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'm going to have to pick up the remaining 3 volumes that I do not possess eventually and finish the series. Then I picked up this borrowed edition of Fairy Tale Comics. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It made me laugh so much. Oh my goodness. The art styles are all very different, as we expect they're going to be with a collection of short stories. One of my favorite art styles was the 12 Dancing Princesses retelling by Emily Carroll. She did Through the Woods. I'm going to be reading that in October, so no surprise that I really enjoyed that one, that art style at least. The Hansel and Gretel fairy tale was really funny at the end. I really, really appreciated that. The same thing with the Puss in Boots retelling. That was freaking hilarious. It really plays with the fact that the son that the Puss in Boots is helping is absolutely useless. It was really great. I also really loved the art style of the Little Red Riding Hood retelling. It's very muted and paper cutout sort of feeling almost. The Prince and the Tortoise was hysterical. I loved that one. Let's see. Oh, and this artwork of Snow White's really funny. I think it's funny how Snow White's just her arms are all bendy and just doing whatever they want. Kind of insinuates that she's just there. She doesn't really know why she does stuff, but she keeps doing it. Also, the boy who drew cats was also hysterical. That was a Japanese fairy tale retelling. So good. I think the Rapunzel retelling maybe was the one that ventured the furthest from the original tale. It definitely lightened it up and made Rapunzel capable. I also really loved the Baba Yaga story. This is illustrated and retold by Gillian Tamaki, who did This One Summer and Super Mutant Magic Academy. That was a really joyful comic to look at. And then finally, the Bremen Town comic was hysterical. Oh my gosh. And beautifully illustrated, in my opinion. So I was pleasantly surprised by this. It was one of the library checkouts that I would not have regretted purchasing ahead of time. I don't know if I'm going to purchase it now, but this is definitely a comic collection I would give to little kids. I really loved this one. It made me laugh many times, like I said, and there were a lot of art styles that I really liked. I'm gonna have to check out the other works by these authors and illustrators. So you should try this if it at all appeals to your sensibilities. Then I picked up the first volume of the Hatter M comics, Far From Wonder. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. The art style is not my favorite. However, the production of this is really intricate. A society has found Hatter M's journals and they have collected all of this evidence and then compiled it for you to read in this. There is a huge appendix section of different questions surrounding the world, and the society answers all the questions. So it's a really meta sort of compilation. Oh, and I realized it was signed. That's cool. But the art style is kind of grossish tones, a little bit. Detailed in its grubbiness, but in my opinion, it was definitely the art style that put me off most. The story was okay. I think if it had more beautiful illustrations, I probably would have given it a higher rating. This is one of my favorite pages, this one here, with the reds and then the reflection in his blade of 2 ladies. Favorite page, this one. Especially at the top where the constellations and the names are written out in the background. I really loved that. And I also love, blue is one of my favorite colors to look at, so this was a particularly nice page for me to look at. This also has some really nice intertextuality. Making appearances in this volume are the likes of Jules Verne and Bram Stoker, so that was pretty neat. The novels that this is a companion to play with that as well. The whole idea is that Lewis Carroll got Alice's story all wrong when he wrote Alice in Wonderland, and so the books that you read put the history to right and also continue the adventure. I still didn't hate it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't hate every moment of reading this, and I will definitely read the following 4 volumes that I own but didn't get to. Next was volume 2 of Lazarus. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. The art style's okay. The world is okay, and yet somehow this was really compelling for me. One thing I'll have to say is that, and this isn't this comic's fault, but it just reminded me, is I'm really, really sick of futuristic worlds where women are still cattle and their bodies are what's valuable rather than them as people or workers or whatever. This comes up a couple times in this world because it's not a very nice one, and it annoyed me so much. I really wish that authors would come up with more imaginative post-apocalyptic futuristic worlds that maybe let's pretend the equality of the sexes happens. I can understand where the idea comes from that, when we have to survive, then the basest instincts of humans come out, I suppose, and rape and loving vaginas is one of them. I found the world really interesting with the families, and I found it pretty easy to follow. Normally, I'm not that good with following politics and social climes and everything like that. Also, Forever was a really neat character. I think it was in this volume in this volume we learn about her training when she was young and her really ridiculously messed up relationship with her family. I also enjoyed some of the side characters that popped up in this. That was a nice break, or just a different bad thing to focus on. So I was eager to pick up volume 3. And I read volume 7 of The Unwritten, and this took a long time to read. I read volume 6 a while ago, I can't remember when, and I remember-ish what's going on, but the storyline is really intricate and complicated with lots of different conspiracies of a conspiracy and worlds within worlds. They keep introducing new characters, which I guess keeps it fresh, but also complicates it even further. The reason why I really loved this series to begin with was the intertextuality. It played around with literature, classics of stories. It really is a storyline about the importance of stories, so I that gelled with me. And there was a pseudo Harry Potter series in here, which is also kind of interesting. But I'm getting kind of bored and frustrated. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, so I still liked it. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure if I'm going to read volume 8, which I already own. After that, I picked up volume 3 of Lazarus, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars as well. This one got a little bit more complicated, but I could still follow it much easier than the Unwritten say, and I still really like the character of Forever. I'm going to be continuing on with this series, though I don't think I'm going to be buying them, as I don't feel like I need to go back and buy volumes 2 and 3, but I will definitely be picking up volume 4 at least of this series. I really liked it. It was really compelling, fast-paced, easy to get through, and there was kissing in this volume. I like kissing on a theoretical level. So I got halfway through Lazarus volume 3 before I broke for dinner at 4:30 and watched a movie, and then came back to reading at about 7:30 in the evening, finished Lazarus in like 30 minutes, and then reread volume 1 of East of West. I remember why this got 5 stars when I read it the first time, because I would have given it 6 stars if I had the ability to on Goodreads upon rereading it. This is freaking awesome. I love, as you know, death as a narrator storyline. This is violent, but there's no rape in it. Yes! I really can't stomach sexual abuse very well, but blood, totally fine, which makes sense since I'm an American and we have a problem with sex, but we don't have a problem with violence. So yeah, this is awesome. And if you haven't tried it yet, you should. If you're really creeped out by gore and guts, maybe not, but if you can get through it, highly recommend it. I love this so much, and I was so pleased that I had lined up to read the second volume, which is what I did next. I think I got farther in trying to read it before than I remembered. In fact, I might have read it completely before, but then decided that I hadn't appreciated it and didn't rate it on my Goodreads. But going through this again, after I had refreshed myself with the first volume, it was a breeze. It wasn't complicated like I remembered once I knew what came before, right? And it's awesome. And there's like a cliffhanger that made me really angry that I didn't have volume 3. So annoying. It's like, I want more. But I didn't have it, and it was late, and I wasn't going to go out and buy it. This is just so cool. Oh, just as cool as the first one. Death is so awesome. And I'm so excited to continue on with the series. And like I said, I really wished that I had volume 3 because I would have just flown through that in the last couple hours of the readathon. I didn't. So I picked up the next best thing, which was still a Western with death as a character, and that was pretty deadly. This was a reread. It wasn't on my TBR. I had another Calvin and Hobbes that was going to take 2 hours, and I had an hour and a half left of the readathon. I had another Hatter M comic, but I wasn't really looking forward to reading that. I had another Unwritten comic, but I wasn't looking forward to reading that. And I had Betty and Veronica, and I just said, no, I think I would much enjoy myself rereading Pretty Deadly and reading my personal copy for the first time, and I enjoyed myself so much. I gave this 5 stars. Again, the art is awesome. You know, I think I actually prefer the art in East of West, but this one suited its storyline really well, and I'm really glad I reread it because it's a little complicated. I mean, it's got a bunch of different, not a bunch, maybe like 3 different timelines, and you learn about them like simultaneously at different points in the narrative. So yeah, you guys, I just really, really enjoyed this. I don't know when the Jiggets Volume 2 is going to come out, but at the back it says that it will be coming, and I'm just like, where are you, Volume 2? I really want to read you. I finished this at 11:30 on Saturday and didn't want to pick up anything else for half an hour. As I said, had been reading for 13 hours and I had been up for 16 at that point. So I had read for 13 out of the 16 hours that I had been awake that day. This was a really great place to end the 24-hour readathon. This is the stack I got through. 11 trades in 13 hours out of a 24-hour readathon period. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Please let me know in the comments down below how you fared on the readathon if you participated, or if you didn't get a chance, what you would have picked up had you had the time. Thank you for watching, and until next time, continue to be lovely. Hot mess, hot mess! I should probably bring up my Goodreads, see what things I gave. gonna waste some time. Oh yeah, you can do it, Goodreads. I am so blabbery today. It's really getting my mic's in there. Jeez. I'm a mess, I'm a mess, I'm a mess. You guys. It's Sunday. I don't have my shit together. My bangs are doing something funkarudo. Let's just, oh Lord. I hate dust jackets so much. It's here. Long hair, it's pain in my ass. Cursing so much today.